Hi there. I'm writer Elena Passarello, and this is Open Book, a literary podcast from Livewire Radio brought to you by Powell's Books, where we talk to writers about their reading habits. Now, when I'm not having fun being Livewire's announcer, writing is my job. I am the author of 2 nonfiction books, and I'm currently mired in a 3rd book project. Please wish me luck. And outside my own writing projects, I teach the next generation of memoirists and essayists in an MFA program here in Oregon. And all of this is just to say that books are, without exaggeration, my whole life. On this inaugural episode of Open Book, we are talking to the one and only Karen Russell. Karen has written several works of fiction, including her novel Swamplandia, which was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize. She's also the recipient of a MacArthur Genius Grant, and her latest is The Antidote. It is just this mesmerizing novel that's both well-researched and totally surprising. I would call it a fantastical Dust Bowl epic. And now she lives in damp, not very dusty Portland, but her career thus far can be described as both fantastical and epic too. I got to tell you, I had a blast talking to Karen about going wild in the public library as a kid, which we both did, about whether or not Jane Eyre should be shelved in the horror section, and about how becoming a sports mom can really help make a dent in your to-be-read pile. Karen also gives us all quite a few book recommendations along the way, so you'll want to keep your ears peeled for that. So now, without further ado, here she is. This is Karen Russell on Open Book. Oh my gosh, Karen Russell, welcome to Open Book.
Hey, Elena, it's nice to see you again.
I am so excited to be talking to you, but this is going to be like torture for me because I am enthralled in your latest novel, The Antidote, and that is not what we're here to talk about. So before we begin, let me just say, America and all the ships at sea, you should check this book out. It will make it difficult for you to go to work because you will want to keep reading it. But I want to talk about what books make you not want to go to work and keep reading. So as a reader, maybe we could start there. As a reader, do you have a memory of a book that just kind of kept you in your chair, ignoring your deadlines, obligations, children, whatever?
For sure. I was just now getting really excited about all the ships at sea and like all the mariners reading The Antidote and just
on Antarctica.
abandoning their posts.
That sounds great. Periscope down.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's always that tension, right? Like I really do. Especially as a younger person, I absolutely did all my real living in books. I mean, that was the door that I would carry around. Like, it is not hyperbole to say that books saved my life. And I was also like a sci-fi fantasy nerd at that time. I still am, but yeah, I just went through different seasons. I really loved like The Last Unicorn by Peter S. Beagle, a fantasy classic when I was like very young. But I loved, The Heart is a Lonely Hunter. It was one of my favorite books. And I think it like deeply imprinted on me. I think this book owes a great debt to that one.
The Heart is a Lonely Hunter.
Yeah, by Carson McCullers, who was really kind of a baby when she wrote that masterpiece. Their eyes were watching. God, I loved 100 Years of Solitude. But also, Stephen King, I really loved. I went through a phase where horror, I don't know, spoke deeply to me. And I would just go to 6th grade looking like a gaunt veteran of war, because I hadn't slept in weeks. Because
you were up all night reading Thinner.
I was up all night reading It. Yeah, exactly. Oh, right. And then I would just be like, sorry, like Miss Timmis.
Were you reading these kinds of books roughly at the same time? Like the Carson McCullers, the Stephen King, the fantasy?
I really was. And I had this deal, I think my mom was skeptical of genre books, and in part because our library would put this like, I don't know, diminishing sticker on them of like a cross-eyed dragon or like a scary alien, So I think she had just internalized some hierarchy, which many people do, right? Where she's like, well, literature is the Brontes and Ray Bradbury must be, I don't know what it is. It has this like, foolish dragon on it, indicating that it's not high literature. And of course, one of the consequences of getting all of these books. I could get, if I got Jane Eyre, I could get Cujo, for example. That was the deal that we brokered. And I think it made me question some of these kind of taxonomies, right? I was like, well, there are ghosts in Jane Eyre. I really started to question as a very young person why certain things are categorized as they are, and
A rabid dog could totally show up at Mr. Rochester's house,
100%,
right? Or was Cujo
I mean,
a rabid dog?
what is scarier? Why is that not shelved as horror, for example, right? Or Stephen King has a book, The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, that I teach. I think it's such a perfect book. And I think he's really like one of our, for as lauded as he is, but like an undersung prose stylist. So I think like reading like an omnivore at that early age for sure marked me in some way.
Karen, we were talking off mic about I'm the same way where like Zoom is sort of a technological marvel if I can make it work. And you said the same thing. What is your experience as a reader with different technological devices that aren't paper? Are you an audiobook person or a Kindle person?
Yeah, I think now that I have become, to my own incredulity, a sports mom, like I drive my 8-year-old to like many sports games. And it's great to have audiobooks.
Okay.
Although I will say there's like a lot of protestations. There's not always like so much in the shaded ven of, what we're all keen to listen to.
Right, because you're not doing what I do where you listen to an audiobook by yourself. There's an 8-year-old who's probably weighing in on Cujo. I mean, what are you listening to?
or like watching a guy play basketball in his mind. Well,
what?
I feel like he's strong. He like powerfully disassociates when I have like an adult book on or NPR or whatever.
What about? Do you ever
It's an important skill.
Yeah. Well, I mean, disassociating. Yeah. What do you think about e-readers?
I mean, I love them when I'm traveling because it turns out that it's impossible to pack like 9 hardcover books, and also, clothes to hide your nudity. So it's good to have a Kindle for that reason. And I actually fiction, really has to be analog for me. Usually I prefer it to be. And stuff where there's sort of, where something is happening at the sentence level where it's not, nonfiction is a little easier, I think, because it's just a different demand. It's like, things are often pretty explicit and it's the information transfer is just happening in a different way. And I think fiction, like if I kind of get distracted or, if I'm driving, I don't have like the full capacity to attend to whatever is micropulsing.
No fiction
inside
audiobook.
A scene. Sometimes. I mean, I'm now in this new perverse zone where I'll have I'll be reading and I'll also have the audiobook.
Yeah.
Do you do that?
Yes, all the time.
Oh, good.
I kind of
alone.
love it. Like there's certain kinds of books where I think when the on-ramp is audio, I get more engaged. But I think like with the antidote where we're kind of meeting different voices really early on, I think paper is better so I can kind of slowly absorb what's happening. Also, there's visuals in there.
Yes.
So I really like the opportunity to kind of pick my on-ramp. You know
totally
what I mean?
agree. I was just remembering when my son was born, I listened to Lincoln and the Bardo as an audiobook.
Uh-huh.
I will say I had to immediately pivot to the hardcover because it was voiced by 11 billion actors and I just was not capable of I was already teetering on the edge of madness because of insomnia, and I was like, George, I got to meet you on the page.
That's an interesting because you think that would be perfect as an audiobook because it's polyvocal, as we would say in our classrooms. But the other thing about the audiobook that got me was one of the voices was like Ron Swanson, Nick Offerman, who we love, who's been on Livewire.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why I pick paper over audio when I have already decided how the characters are and they sound in my head.
Yep.
Sometimes I can't go to another perfectly valid interpretation that the book actor is doing.
Oh, totally. I was kind of doing this toggling between the paper book and the audiobook for Louise Erdrich's The Mighty Red, which is excellent. And she reads her own work. And so there's something instructive about it. It's sort of like hearing the music composed on, the original instrument.
Yeah.
I always think I learned something. I noticed no one's ever asked me to read my own audiobooks. But
is that true?
Yeah, it's true. But thank God. It's a different skill, I think, My brother read his audiobook and I love there's something really intimate about it. And I just think it is interesting. You really, sometimes lines that I had read as kind of flat or uninflected are hilarious in the voice of the author, and vice versa too.
Humor is especially tricky, I think.
Oh, yeah.
When you're, transferring it to someone else. Okay, so let me ask you this. 6 books so far, and a couple of them are collections of short stories, so multiple stories. You've just got this long career as a writer. How is that changing who you are as a reader versus reading Cujo and Jane Eyre, and striking these contracts, or when you were a budding writer?
Yeah.
What's it like now?
Goodness. It is really interesting. I think from the vantage of midlife, things look a little different.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed with this book, it feels a little more straightforward and direct than some of the other things I've written. And that also somehow feels a little bit particular to this book and what it's taking on and what it's interested in, but also maybe has something to do with the middle of my own story. But I am like the least reliable narrator for how I'm changing as a writer. I'll be the last to know.
Well, what about as a reader? I have written not 6 books, but I feel very different as a book reader now. And sometimes I wonder if it's just because I'm middle-aged and I have 16 jobs and I'm just I'm much more into the short story than I ever was before.
Oh, yeah.
But I also wonder if making books has affected who I am as a reader. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I think I'm more interested in nonfiction than I was as a young person. And there's a different sort of curiosity and urgency to know about the world, maybe in proportion to how the stakes feel. I mean, so important right now.
Yeah.
So I really, in a way that I guess is different and surprising, I'm reading all of these books about soil, or reading about nonfiction that's sort of directed towards different kinds of futures, right?
Yeah, totally.
That, just speaks to the moment that we're in, I guess.
I'm in the throes of putting a book together right now, and I'm thinking about the vacation book. Did you do this, where it's I can't really read exactly what I want to read right now because I have to read nonfiction books about the equivalent of soil for me. And then I have to avoid certain things because they're too close to what I'm working on.
Oh, totally.
Did you, for any of your book projects, did you ever have a vacation book or a type of book that you couldn't wait to read once you were through the mire of putting the book together?
Well, it's funny. I mean, student manuscripts too, right? It's I think when some of your job is reading, finding that vacation book, it makes pleasure reading feel all the more like an illicit activity, right? There's always a stack of stuff I'm supposed to be reading. So it's sort of thrilling to be it's just a little crush. You're just And for me, Kristen Arnett's book was that most recently.
Yes, the clown book.
Yes. Stop me if you've heard this one. I mean, she's so brilliant. She sees all of us flawed clowns with so much compassion. And it felt so great to belly laugh. And I with Kristen, who's a friend too. So it's spending time with your friend, on the page.
There's no better feeling than when someone you know and love wrote a book that you love.
That just knocks it out of the park. There is no better feeling. It's true. Because you enter with some trepidation, right?
Yes.
Or I do.
It feels like true love. It feels like that. It feels like just a little crush. It feels, it's I mean, I have a husband and a family, but I just love it so much. So my vacation read for the last book was this murder mystery told from the points of view of a flock of sheep.
Amazing.
It's called 3 Bags Full.
Oh my God.
So
oh my God. I feel like I'm the target demographic for 3 Bags Full.
It's amazing. I think it was originally written in Germany. It takes place in Scotland. But the sheep have to figure out these things that sheep don't know in order to solve the mystery of the shepherd who has been murdered. So they have to figure out what it means to be there and not there. They have to figure out what it means to tell a story.
Yeah.
It's very German. It's existential sheep murder mystery.
Oh, well, listen. I mean, you had me at, I'm sorry for whoever got murdered, but even if it was just existential sheep hanging out, I feel like I'm all in.
I feel like you would love it.
Yeah. Let me tell you now, because I want to call it in advance. I feel proud of knowing this, like a carnival witch, what everybody's next vacation read is going to be.
Tell me.
The poet Paige Lewis has written the most spectacular novel, Canon. They are so brilliant, and there's never been a book like this one.
Give me the sheep murder mystery.
I mean, I really can't even do a log line because it's that brilliant. They wrote a non-binary epic about 2 dueling prophets.
Oh.
There's a whale named How Big. It's so good. There's genuinely, I have never read anything like their book, and I hope everybody reads it.
Purpose of podcast, figuring out what Laner's next vacation book is going to be, and I think you just nailed it. I think we're gonna have to read this book. Oh, great! Do you have, Karen, a little black dress book that you can kind of give to anyone, and you kind of know that it's going to be a hit? You know what I mean?
Oh my goodness, I've given Elizabeth McCracken's books, all of them actually, her memoir, her novel, her stories. I feel like people adore. I mean, correctly.
Yeah, she uses humor really well too.
Yes, she's a favorite. I sort of think the autobiography of Red, and that's not a book for everyone, but actually
Anne Carson.
Yes, and it's a novel in verse.
Yeah,
about a little red-winged dragon. And I mean, that's sort of, I don't know why that just came to me, because it's actually, it's sort maybe because we were talking about canon. I mean, it's so singular. It's like the only one of its species in a way.
I know what you mean, because it's an evangelical book for a certain kind of reading. Like there are people, I think, who feel maybe like they can't read quote unquote weird stuff.
Yeah.
And you're like, let me just get you into
it's
the right.
It's a good starter book for that, right? Or it's kind of a good to kind of, I don't know. I felt very like pushed out of my own nest by that book.
You did.
Yeah. At the time that I read it, And I love it. But it's funny that I don't know that, I'm sure Ed Carson was like, that's not a little black dress book, you fool. But
I'm with you.
Do you have one?
I think Their Eyes Were Watching God is pretty good.
Oh, yes.
That's one of the books. This is a question that I should ask more on this podcast. You know those books where you get to the last page and you immediately turn the book over and read the first page? Like you finish the book and you just go right back and you start it again. Clutch Fleischmann's Syzygy Beauty is another one that I did that for. This. But yeah, I think Their Eyes Were Watching God is I think a lot of different people. I would give it to my dad. I would give it to my students. I would give it to my neighbor. People who like lyrical language, I think, would like it. Yeah. And it's in Florida. So
yeah, no, I love that book. That was such an important book to me. Our house was flooded in Hurricane Andrew. We had to go live with relatives in Pennsylvania for a long time. And that book is so much about how that hurricane, I thought, there's nothing more vivid in our literature as a testament of the way that weather kind of shapes and unmakes people's lives. And it's such a beautiful love story also, but also such a harrowing.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of rabidity.
Yeah.
It's terrifying too.
Did you read the book before? Hurricane Andrew was in 92, right? Did you read it before or after?
No, I read it after. And I think that's one reason that it really, that it was important to me.
That's great. Do you have a controversial book opinion, Karen Russell?
I do. I mean, I do just think that books are better than film and television. That's just sort of on balance. I would say books are better.
Yes.
They're better.
Will you be saying this to the film executives that want to make a major motion picture out of the antidote?
No, I'm going to be like, they coerced me into saying that. It was a podcast about books. I really didn't have a choice. You didn't see how menacing the other people in the room were. There were 3 TVs stacked up, and they were just smashing them with bats, and I had to agree.
Okay, so books are better. So there's no movie that's better than the book. There's no TV show that's better than the book.
I just think in aggregate, if you were like, what's better, books or film and TV? I break books always. Which is maybe not even that controversial for somebody who's like, I spend all of my life reading and writing. So
no, I think it's good. Let's put some airspace down for that. I think that's great. Okay, number 2.
Number 2, this is like my crotchety midlife controversial opinion, Elena. I think there's too much white space right now in our fiction. It's tempting. Okay, we're all so tired and our brains have been destroyed by these devices. We have to keep trying, everybody.
So too much white space is when you look at a page and someone has obviously hit the return key a lot between paragraphs.
The poets, I'm not talking to you, okay, but I think in us, the readers and the writers of fiction, let's just keep trying to have sustained focus for a little longer.
I heard that being blamed on when somebody has kids, they start writing Flash and they start using the return key a lot more.
Okay, yeah, I'm also not speaking to new mothers. I need to retract. Look, okay, new mothers can do whatever the hell they want. You can just put down a whole salt shaker of white space.
But you're
right.
We're both teachers. I do sometimes when my students bring in something that has a lot of white space in it, I go, what if I forced you not to do that? How would that change the end of the place before the white space begins and then the beginning of where the white space concludes? Like, what if you just had to do that work? What would you put there?
Right. How would you bridge?
Like, you have to kind of hold it. You have to hold those choices, their feet to the fire just a little bit to know that they're really supposed to be like that.
Yeah, that it's deliberate and not just sort of someone Tarzan swinging away from a narrative responsibility.
Tarzan swinging away. Like, nope, not going to address that.
It's on you now. Yeah.
Okay, so if there's a ton of white space in any book that I ever write, if I send you a galley, I'm just going to write, sorry, Karen, and post-it.
No, look, I already regret my controversial opinion. I'm going to say it's born out of my own insecurity that my attention is so contracted. Mm-hmm. Like, I have really noticed here, like, how are you a different reader? reader. I'm not proud of this, but like to find the sustained focus to give like a weighty book or a dense book. Like I was rereading Marquez, and you stand under these paragraphs that are like waterfalls, of sound and sense. And I really struggle. I feel like those people that like don't train for a marathon, they're like, I could run this. And then they're just limping along at the end, I mean, it's really, I really noticed like that there's been some real erosion of my own attention. So
Same.
There you go, everybody. My controversial, I speak to myself with my controversial opinion.
I think that's great. I think we all need to just spend a little bit more time with sustained attention, and that will make everything better. That will make reading Marquez better. That will make reading Anne Carson better. That'll make reading a book where there's like a page of white space for every 2 sentences better.
Yeah.
We all just need to pay attention just a little bit more. I've loved paying attention to you. Thank you so much for being on this podcast.
Elena. This was a blast.
That was author Karen Russell. Her newest novel, The Antidote, is out now, and you can order it at powells.com. Thanks for listening to Open Book. I'm Elena Passarello, your host. Our executive producer is Laura Haddon, and our producer and editor is Melanie Sevchenko. Eben Hoffer is our technical director. Hazik bin Ahmad Farid is our mixer. A. Walker Spring composed our theme song, and Ashley Park is our social media marketer. A big thanks to the entire staff at Livewire Radio, the fine folks at PRX, and of course, Powell's Books for sponsoring this podcast.